Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Starfinder Character Operations Manual. This is the newest supplement to come out by Paizo for the Starfinder role-playing game, and it's something that I've been looking forward to for quite some time. Before I begin, I just want to state that Paizo has sent this to me for the purposes of doing a review. However, they are not shaping or forming the opinions expressed in the review itself. Everything that I say in this video is based off of my own personal thoughts and feelings towards the product that we have here. So we'll just take a quick look at the front cover here. It shows off the 3 new classes that are available, and we'll get to those in a moment. Also included, in addition to those 3 new classes, there are new options for all the classes and races that were in the core rulebook. So we have some new alternate versions of class features, racial traits, stuff like that. There's new feats, spells, and equipment. We have shields finally in the game for the first time. And then we have some new roles and crew actions for starship combat and a system for downtime. This book also goes for a retail price of $39.99 US. So what we're going to do is just do a quick flip through of the book. We'll go through some of the high points here, and then I'll give my thoughts at the end. So let's just get right into it. We have our overview, which is standard for most of these books. The first section here has some new themes, and some, this has the new themes and the alternate racial traits for the core rulebook races. So, themes are just things that you can add as part of your character creation. They dictate ability scores, certain skill options that are available to you, and some other abilities as you progress in level. It's been a part of the game since the very beginning, but we have some new options in here. So, the options available are Athlete, Grifter, Guard, Law Officer, Noble Scion, Sensate, and Street Rat. So the two ones that I like, I'm not going to go through them all individually, but the 2 ones that I like the most would have to be the Grifter, because I love the idea of sort of a snake oil salesman type character. Last year I made an NPC that had that kind of background and had a collection of useless trinkets that I also included descriptions of how they would actually try to sell them, even though they're completely just useless or mundane. And the person ended up actually playing that character in a game really liked that idea, so I thought that was pretty cool. The other one that I really like is the Sensate. So they are built around the idea of reveling in experiencing new sensations, new experiences, things just like the textures of food, stuff like that, which I think was what they were going for in this artwork, with the Shrian just carrying a whole bunch of different foods and drinks and stuff like that. And just this artwork alone is what really just kind of sold me on the idea of this this theme in the first place. It's just such an awesome piece of art, in my opinion. And then up next we have the alternate features for the different core rulebook races. So we have, all of them are included here. So what they will have are different ability score adjustments based off of the environments that they've developed or grown up in, as well as new racial traits that will replace something else. So, for example, with the android, the typical android gets a standard adjustment of +2 to Dex, +2 to Intelligence, and -2 to Charisma. So with this one here, we'll just go with the Laborer. The Laborer version of the android were created to perform menial tasks and endure the hardships of space. In many regions, they were considered corporate property for far longer than typical androids. And their ability score modifiers are +2 to Strength, +2 to Con, and -2 to Charisma. So a more physically oriented version of the android race. I'm not going to go through every single feature that they get, or alternate feature that you can choose. But for example, the first one I'll just go with is the very top one here. So you have Easily Augmented. As artificial creatures, androids are compatible with a wide array of cybernetics. Androids who have this racial trait can install one additional cybernetic augmentation into one system that already has an augmentation, and that replaces the upgrade slot. So upgrade slot was something you could apply any light armor upgrade, I think it was, into the android's body, and this one allows you to put an extra cybernetic implant into a spot that already has one. So it's just different options based off of that. And we have that for all of the races in here. There's also some new feats, and some of them will also have like alternate class options based off of, you know, sort of, I don't want to say stereotypes, but based off of what classes they may sort of lean towards. It gives them some alternate things there. So, for example, the Shrian, does it have... No, so we'll go with the Vesk here. So the Vesk class option has soldier stuff, so it has the Battlemaster fighting style instead of the regular fighting styles in the core rulebook. So that's just sort of how those are presented. And we also have the Pathfinder Legacy races included here as well. So we have different racial traits that they can get, ability score adjustments, just a nice touch to add these into here as well. Up next we have our 3 new classes. The 3 classes are the Biohacker, the Vanguard, and the Witchwarper. The Biohacker is a character that's sort of built around the idea of injecting like serums or nanobots or other such things into either their allies or their opponents. And they can either boost, generally speaking, in the terms of their allies, they can actually create like enhancements to them, or they can do things to hinder their enemies. And they can do this through the use of weapons that have the injection trait. So it's just kind of a cool idea of firing basically like hypodermic needles out of a gun and having that affect the whoever gets hit by it, either, like I said, imposing penalties to them, affecting them physically, or actually in the case of allies, you can forego the damage and just apply the benefit of the whatever they're being injected with. So just some awesome stuff there. Love that concept. The Vanguard is sort of a martial character, uses a lot of like unarmed strike basically, so it's kind of like a monk, but they are very obsessed with the idea of entropy. So they have a pool of entropy points that they build up either by taking or dealing damage. There's a few different ways that they can gain these points, and then they can spend the points to either enhance their regular entropic strike, which has its own damage values here, which is done as your unarmed strike, or you can so you can increase your movement with the entropy points, or you can spend them to deal extra damage with that strike. So just a cool idea there as well. And they get a lot of interesting options there. Like I said, I'm not going to go into them in detail in this video, but if you want me to go, into more detail on each of the classes, I can do separate videos for each of them. But this is just a very brief overview. And then we get into the Witchwarper, who literally bends the fabric of reality and introduces pockets of other possible dimensions or realities into their own. And I just think that is just a amazing concept. They're also spellcasters, and they actually have to sacrifice their spell slots in order to manifest these different realities into their own. But the cool thing about it is that there's like different levels. So you have like first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth level environmental effects. And if you sacrifice a higher level spell slot, you can actually use a combination of the lower level effects sort of in tandem with one another. So just a really awesome idea there. And again, I just love the idea of like summoning a patch of like writhing, tentacles that creates like difficult terrain or tries to grab someone and prevent them from moving, or doing a combination of like that and opening up to a reality where it's just super bright light that like dazes everybody or blinds people. Just some really cool stuff there. So here we have the alternate features for the existing classes from the core rulebook. So these are just a series of class options that you substitute for another one, and each of these will tell you which option it replaces. So I'm not going to go through all of these again either, but we'll just take a look at a quick one here. So we'll look at, for the Envoy, we've got Motivation Expertise. So it says you're an expert in making people happy and high-spirited, allowing them to press forward when they might otherwise quit. You gain an expertise die, the same value as that granted to an envoy of your level by the expertise class feature. At first level, whenever you take an action that restores a creature's stamina points or hit points, you can restore additional stamina points equal to the result of the roll of your expertise die. You can still use your expertise die on sense motive checks, but you always add the minimum possible result. This is also true for any skills that you select with skill or expertise, and it says this replaces the regular expertise ability. So again, just sort of stuff along those lines. And again, I'm not going to go through everything, but it's just another level of customization that you can do with the existing classes that you have in the game. So with the combination of the new racial traits that you can get, as well as the new class options, you can literally have multiple characters of the same race and class that all feel very different from one another. And that's just an absolutely fantastic thing to have. So a nice degree of customization there. We also have some archetypes added to the game. So these are things that you can sort of take as substitutes for other like class traits or class features. We have the android abolitionist, the battle flower, see the esotericist, I think that's how you pronounce that, espionage specialist, fixer, free trader, instructor, and probably my favorite, the medic. Mainly because I know that if I were to ever play a character, it would likely be a healer, since that tends to be the one thing that nobody ever plays. So if I were to take an archetype, this is probably the one that I would use the most. The next one that I really like, though, is the power armor jockey. And then you have the Starlight. And again, I'm not going to go through the specifics. I could do that in a separate video if you guys want me to do that. The next section we have is just a new list of feats. A lot of these are for the new classes presented in the book, but that's not necessarily true for everything in here. So again, there's some great options for individuals if they're looking for something just a little bit different than what's in the core rulebook. Again, I'm not going to go through those here. We all know how feats work if you're watching this video, but it's really nice to again have some expanded options there. And then up next we have our equipment. We have a whole bunch of weapons here. Each of these weapons has the injection trait included. So this is a major source of support for the biohacker. It gives you just a ton of different weapons that they can attempt to use, including things like the syringe spear, which that just sounds awesome. Syringe stick also sounds awesome. Needlers, glove needler, again, just some cool stuff there. And then we get into our shields. So with the shields, we'll go over sort of how these work, because they're a little bit different than what you would conventionally think of as a shield in RPGs. So one thing to keep in mind is that the Starfinder system was developed without shields being incorporated into the system. So I think they tried to go for sort of a low impact way of introducing them without throwing like armor classes and stuff way off. So what we have here is the chart for the different shields. We have our standard stuff like level, price. We'll get back to the shield bonus in a moment. We have maximum dex, so if you're using a shield that affects your maneuverability. Something that's not, I think, included in most systems that utilize shields. Armor check penalty, bulks, and then upgrades. So with the shields, you'll see two different sets of number under the shield bonus. Let's just zoom in a little bit here. So for the Riot Shield Basic, we have +1/+1. So the number before the slash represents the bonus to armor class that you get if you're simply wielding the shield, if you have it on your person. Most of the shields will grant you a +1, although we do see a couple here that give you +2. +0, and so we'll actually look at the Knight Shield here, because simply having it on you is not enough to get any bonus to your regular armor class, but the number after the slash is an armor class bonus that you get based off of specific situations. So with the Knight Shield, because it's right here on this page as well, so it's just the easiest one for me to remember, having it wielded gives you a +0 bonus, at least for the basic version of it. There are more powerful versions of it you can get later on. However, if you spend your move action to ready the shield, so it's kind of like Pathfinder 2nd Edition, where you have to spend an action to raise your shield, you kind of do that here as well. And the way that this works is it gives you the +2 bonus to armor class if you use a move action to raise the shield and select a specific enemy. So it's one of those things that you can only use this shield to defend against a single target. But against that single target, you do get a +2 bonus to your armor class with. And that same works for like the different types of Knight Shield. So the Elite version gives you a +1 if you just have it on you, or a +3 against a single target if you use the move action to sort of ready it and aim it towards that individual. So it makes sense actually for the way that shields, you know, really do function. In that you kind of have to, especially for the smaller ones, you kind of have to choose where you're using them. So I kind of like the way that they do that. Then we just have some more medicinals and serums, stuff like that. Up next we have our spell section, and we have new spells for the Mystic class, the Technomancer class, and then we have the Witch Warper spell list. So the new spells for the Mystic and Technomancer that are listed here are specifically in this book, but the Witch Warper has access to spells from the core rulebook, this book, and then other things such as like the Alien Archives and books along those lines. And then there are some spells that actually require you to spend a resolve point, and you'll see a little R next to them there. The spells themselves are alphabetically organized like normal, but one of the things that I do appreciate in the Starfinder game is the fact that they have the name of the class that can cast these spells, along with the level of the spell, right next to the spell names. Just makes knowing which classes have which spells a lot easier. And finally, we have our other rules section. So these are some new Starship combat rules, roles, and maneuvers that can be used. I shouldn't say rules, it's just the new roles and the new maneuvers that can be done. We have the Chief Mate, which is sort of a supplemental character that can be used to augment other characters' abilities. So we have, like, they can help with the helm, they can help with engineering. And then we have the Magic Officer, which channels magical energy into ship systems to gain certain effects. So I'm not going to go through all of them here again either, but for the Chief Mate, one of the actions they can do is, as a co-pilot, they can perform the hard turn action, which if they succeed on their acrobatics or athletics check, they can make it so that the ship maneuvers 1 degree better than it normally would. So it might go from, like, you know, clumsy to good maneuverability or to perfect maneuverability. But if you fail the roll, then it actually reduces your maneuverability and makes it like harder to turn, sort of thing. So that's one of the options they have. They also have like maintenance panel access, that if they make their proper check, then they can, when the engineering phase comes and they use the ability to divert power from one system to another, you can actually use it to divert power to 2 different systems instead of just one. So again, just some ways of helping out there. And then we have the Magic Officer, who has like different things they can do, but my favorite has to be the Eldritch Shot, where they channel magical energy into the weapon system, and when they do that, it can extend the range the weapon can fire magically. So I just think that's kind of neat. And then we have some other options that we can do here as well, including some opening actions for like the very beginning of combat, minor crew actions, things of that nature. And then we have our downtime activities, and I just love the ability to use downtime. I just think it's a great way of filling in gaps in the story, to create a sense of the passage of time without just sort of completely glazing over it, because now you can let them sort of do stuff in that meantime. My favorite one has to be Lounge, just because, again, of the art here. You have somebody just relaxing and playing a video game, and he's playing what looks like a fighting game with Super Saiyan dogs. I mean, that is Super Saiyan hair right there. And that kind of looks like Saiyan armor a little bit. Anyway, I just think that's just absolutely fantastic. So some really cool stuff there as well. And that's it for the book. So those are the things that are included. So that was my flip through of the Character Operations Manual. So what do I think of this book overall? I think that this is one of the best Starfinder books that has come out for the game to date. And that's saying something because Paizo has done a very good job with pretty much everything that they put out for the system so far. This is something that I would consider to be a near essential purchase. If you are a player in the Starfinder game, then this is something that I feel like you need to have in your collection. Just the amount of new options and customization available to you through this book, as well as the new classes, the new roles, the new feats, the new options, everything that's in here, I think has a very important place to go into any Starfinder game. So this is something that I really think needs to be in everyone that plays Starfinder. This is a book that you guys just need to have. Even as a game master, this is probably the book that I would recommend third to pick up after the core rulebook and the first Alien Archive. Because again, I think the stuff that's in here is just that good. The new classes are all very well done. They're all very interesting. If I had to rank them myself personally, I would probably do Biohacker, Witchwarper, and then the Vanguard would be third for me. But that's just, again, I love the idea of shooting like the injections or bending the very fabric of reality, causing different dimensions to temporarily cross over. I just love that kind of concept. But you can't go wrong with any of the new classes that are included in here. So this is something that, again, I highly, highly recommend picking up. So well worth the money for the new things available to you. So that was my review of the Starfinder Character Operations Manual. Let me know in the comments below if you've picked this book up. Let me know how you've been able to use it so far in your campaigns. Have you used the new class options for the existing classes or the new classes themselves? If you taken new feats or have you taken one of the new roles for Starship Combat? Let me know that in the comments below, because I'd really love to hear how you guys have managed to use this book so far. Once again, thank you very much to Paizo for sending this to me for the purposes of doing this video. It really means a lot to me that they're willing to support the channel in that way, and I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to watch this video. So thank you all from the bottom of my heart, and I will see you next time. Take care.